Forming plurals can be tricky. Do you have brothers-in-law or brother-in-laws? Should you address the attorneys ending in IES or the attorneys ending in YS? Fortunately, there are several rules to guide you. The basic rule for forming plurals is to add the letter S to the singular form of the noun. For example, the singular word committee becomes the plural committees and league becomes leagues. When singular nouns end in S, X, CH, SH, or Z, you follow a different rule. You add ES. This includes words like businesses and wishes. The only exceptions are certain nouns ending in Z, such as quiz. That gets an extra Z in the plural form quizzes. Nouns ending in Y are another special case. When a Y comes after a consonant, you form the plural by changing the Y to an I and adding ES. For example, copy drops the Y and becomes copies ending in IES. But when a Y comes after a vowel, you don't change the Y, and you add an S to form the plural, as in boy and boys. Usually you form the plural of nouns ending in F, FE, or FF by adding S. So tariff in its plural form has an S at the end of it, tariffs, and the noun safe becomes safes, ending in S. There are some exceptions though. In words like leaf, you change the F to VE and add S to make leaves. Some categories of nouns have special rules. Proper nouns, which name individual people or things, have a simple rule. Don't change the original spelling. All you need to do is add S to the singular form. So Mr. and Mrs. McCarthy become the McCarthys. Foreign nouns can also have different rules. The singular endings ON and UM often change to A in the plural. So criterion has the plural criteria, and referendum is usually pluralized as referenda. Some nouns are irregular. Many of these come from Old English, and you form the plural by changing letters within the word or adding unusual endings. Think of words like mouse and mice, or child and children. When you're making plurals for compound words, the trick is to pluralize the base element of the word, the principal noun. For example, the plural of father-in-law is fathers-in-law, and the plural of profit margin is profit margins. If you can't find a clear principal noun, then apply the plural to the entire compound, as in hand-me-downs. A common error is using apostrophes to form plurals. An apostrophe S forms a possessive noun, not a plural noun. However, you might come across plural forms of numbers and letters using the apostrophe. That's not a rule, but it's allowed. So you can write, she scored 10s in all the quizzes, using an apostrophe S after 10, but you can also leave the apostrophe out. Remember these rules, and you'll be singularly well prepared to form correct plurals. When you say John's book or Sophie's notepad, you're using the possessive case, with an apostrophe S following the names John and Sophie. This shows that something belongs to someone or something. The apostrophe is one of the most commonly misused punctuation marks, so it's good to know the rules that govern its use in the possessive case. The first rule for forming possessives is for singular nouns that don't end in an S, add an apostrophe S. So you talk about the company's policy with an apostrophe S. The same rule applies to irregular plural nouns, like media, the media's coverage, again with an apostrophe S. For plural nouns that end in S, you add just an apostrophe and no S. So if you were writing about the offices of the managers, you'd write the manager's offices with the plural word managers ending with an apostrophe. When you pronounce some singular nouns that end in S, you add an extra syllable when they become possessive. For those nouns to match the pronunciation, you add apostrophe S instead of just the apostrophe. For instance, you'd write the witness's statement with the witness ending in apostrophe s because it's pronounced witnesses. For other singular nouns that end in s, ones where you don't add an extra syllable, you add an apostrophe without an s to the end of the word, so economics in its possessive form would end in an apostrophe, and the same is true of politics. Personal pronouns don't take an apostrophe, even though you'll often see them incorrectly spelled with one. The most common mistake here is confusing the possessive pronoun its, which has no apostrophe, with the contraction its, which has an apostrophe s. You can also use the possessive form to modify a word ending in ing, if it's being used as a noun. So in the sentence, the revised insurance would result in the family paying for services that used to be covered. Family takes the possessive form using an apostrophe s. There's a rule of thumb to help you with this construction. Only use it when the word before the ing word can be replaced with a personal pronoun, such as I, you, we, or our. In that sentence, you could replace the family with our, and the result would be, the revised insurance would result in our paying for services that used to be covered. Finally, in compound nouns and noun phrases, you make the final noun possessive. So you'd write a team member's reaction with an apostrophe s on member. But when a compound noun is plural, it's often best to use an of phrase instead to avoid confusion. So instead of writing the editors-in-chief's duties, you'd write the duties of the editors-in-chief. The possessive form may seem a small detail in your writing, but getting the details right is part of presenting yourself well. So follow the rules, and you'll master the use of the possessive form. Say you submit a funding proposal, and on your first page, you've made 1 or 2 spelling mistakes. How do you think the reader will judge your proposal? It probably won't get too far. Spelling mistakes suggest carelessness, maybe even incompetence. Correct spelling makes your writing clearer and shows professionalism. Let's explore a few rules and tips to help you avoid spelling mistakes. When forming plurals, you generally add an s to the singular form of the noun, so cat becomes cats. If the word ends in s, x, ch, sh, or z, you usually add es, so box becomes boxes with an es ending. If you're adding a suffix to a word that ends in silent e, and the suffix begins with a vowel, you drop the e, and if the suffix begins with a consonant, you keep the e. So believe would change to believing with no e before the ing, and hope would become hopeless, keeping the e before the l in less. English has many other silent letters that can cause problems. In debt, the b is silent. In indict, there's a silent c. Condemn ends with a silent n. And psychology starts with a silent p. Mnemonics, that is memory aids, can help you remember the correct spelling of these words. One memory aid is to put the tricky word in a sentence with other words including the same letter, like Marcy makes mnemonic memos. Another mnemonic is the phrase I before E except after C. This means that when a word has an I beside an E after any letter but C, you spell the word with IE, for example, belief and retrieve. If it follows a C, you usually use EI, as in perceive and receipt. There are exceptions though. Words like seize and science don't follow the rule. Still, it's a handy rule of thumb. Another spelling rule is to double the final consonant when you add a suffix, either to one-syllable words that end with a vowel and consonant, or to multi-syllable words with an accented final syllable. So scan, a one-syllable word ending in a vowel and consonant, becomes scanning, with 2 N's. Occur, which has an accent on the last syllable, becomes occurrence with a double R when you add ENCE. And finally, there are some hints for suffixes and prefixes. The suffix full can be tricky. So keep in mind that words like awful or careful always end in a single L, even though the word full has 2. And when you add a prefix, you don't drop letters from the original word. So equal becomes unequal without any changing to the spelling in the base word equal. There are many irregularities in English spelling, and sometimes you just have to memorize words. You can seek help with your spelling by simply searching reliable sources online. Spelling help is a few keystrokes away.